Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys. I'm here to kick off July with a series of videos entitled The Weddings of the Collins Family, really. And what better wedding to start with than Jeremiah Collins and Josette, well, Countess Josette Dupree Collins. It's good to mess up. It's just let it go. Be just let it go. Okay, so it's important to keep in mind I'm not just covering Josette and Jeremiah with this video. I'm also covering Jeremiah's marriage to Laura in this video. So there is that. So we know the Collins family history book, lies and says Josette came to Collinsport looking to marry Jeremiah Collins. What we have to consider is not just Josette's story here, because we know that there are things that are printed in the Collins family history book that aren't exactly true. We have to consider Jeremiah. So let's go to 1897 for a brief moment. We hear Laura Collins was married to Jeremiah. And you might say, the Phoenix was married to Jeremiah? And Barnabas even questions her, well, when I was a boy, were you even a Phoenix then? Remember, Jeremiah had no kids. So keep this in mind. Was this somebody who was ever going to get married again after Laura left? No. Jeremiah Collins, after him being married to Laura for a brief moment in time, never wanted anything to do with marriage. Really, I gotta look, the Dark Shadows writers never get enough credit with this series. And this here is one where they deserve an immense amount of credit. Look, the one thing the Dark Shadows writers never stopped doing was rolling the dice. These guys felt like they were at Vegas just rolling the dice, and hey, if it rolled 7, great. And I got to give them credit for this, because they could have just left the character of Jeremiah Collins alone in 1897. Hell, there's almost no reason to mention him. I mean, really, Barnabas being there, well, he's not there for Jeremiah, so why bother to mention Jeremiah? Other than the fact that Barnabas grew up around Jeremiah. But I got to give the writers credit. Instead of playing it safe, they roll the dice yet again, and it pays off. And you might say, well, we don't hear about the marriage with him and Laura in the 1795 arc. This is true, and I think with reason. Keep in mind everything we know about the 1795 arc and about the Collins family history book. Everything that gets printed or talked about isn't exactly true. And something tells me that isn't the first time. So here's, Jeremiah, when Barnabas was a boy, was married to Laura, which leads me to believe one thing. Though Laura was not a phoenix, in my opinion, Laura was once upon a time an actual person who chose to sell her goddamn soul to a fucking entity. I mean, hey, who wouldn't, right? Right? And she did. Now, that's my opinion of it. Now, if you disagree, that's fine. Um, I'll say this. It further cements Jeremiah here as a character. Keep in mind, in 1795, Josette comes to Collinsport to marry Barnabas. That's the marriage that's been set up here. This, as my friend Gordon once pointed out, this is a business transaction for the Collins family. Listen, as long as it's making Joshua money, he's all for it. And Gordon's right, by the way. Shout out to him. Link to his Amazon page will be in the description box. So you have here a wedding that everybody's for because it helps money situation. Now, Natalie's legitimately happy. Her father, look, even her father doesn't care which Colin she marries. Hey, if you marry Jeremiah, great. If you marry Barnabas, great. Either or, I don't care. That's the feeling I get from her father. With Natalie, it's a little more. She just wants Josette to be happy. Now, so Josette comes there to marry Barnabas. Keep in mind Jeremiah here. Joshua is not just placating one wedding where he's you know he looks at Josette and Barnabas and he sees that's in the bag. That's in the bag. That's gonna happen. What does he do? He's then pushing his own brother and business partner to marry his cousin Millicent. That's right. Joshua was trying to attempt a second wedding. Two weddings. He was he is he is pushing literally Jeremiah harder than Angelique pushed Josette off Widow's Hill here. I mean, he's literally pushing him to marry his cousin. Joshua's pushing Jeremiah to marry his cousin, which is really interesting when you think about it. Jeremiah wants nothing to do with that, and not just and you sort of do get the sense that not just because it's his cousin, you sort of get the sense of Jeremiah just does not want to be married. Now, do you get the sense that he's been married before? In a weird way, yes. You get the sense that, well, maybe he has been down that rabbit hole before. Give credit where credit's due. Anthony George, though he was not the greatest Burt Devlin in the world, his Jeremiah Collins is untouched, in my opinion. No offense to Adrian Paul's Jeremiah Collins in the 1991 revival, Anthony George does not get enough credit for his portrayal as Jeremiah. Here's a man who's flat out refusing to get married. And by the way, when Josette comes to his room and kisses him, Jeremiah's like, what are you doing? You're married to Barnabas. So even here, he's rejecting the idea of a woman being in love with him until he's put under a spell of his own. So Jeremiah wanted nothing to do with actually getting married for a second time. And the writers, really what they did in 1897 was make Jeremiah make a hell of a lot of sense. And bravo to them for it. Now, we know Josette's going to gets put under a spell. Obviously, Angelique takes her perfume, the um, the jasmine perfume, and puts it on her neck. That, my friends, is what happens when she goes to Jeremiah's room. Then she puts Jeremiah under a spell by slipping something in his drink. Then they kiss. That's when they kiss. That's when Jeremiah can't fight it because he's under a spell. But yet he is even questioning it later on before the duel. You literally have a man and a woman who were never meant to be together. A man who wanted nothing to do with getting married a second time until he gets put under a spell of his own. With Josette, she was put under a spell pretty quickly. And what happens is they run off. On the day, everybody changes the wedding day. It's all agreed upon that they're going to get married sooner than what expected. And what happens? Josette runs off, Jeremiah runs off. And what happens as Barnabas is walking through the woods? The voice of Jeremiah, which isn't really the voice of Jeremiah, which Barnabas calls attention to, speaks to him and taunts him. This right here is where the seeds of the duel were laid. Not when they returned, right here. Despite Barnabas calling it bullshit, he does now doubt Jeremiah. And when Jeremiah returns, he's still shocked at it, but it's like he's so pissed, he wants a duel. Yes, here comes the bride. Here comes the bride. all dressed in white and put under a spell, and so is the groom. Two people who wanted nothing to do with each other to begin with, especially Jeremiah wanting nothing to do with another marriage, get married because they both get put under a witch's spell, and the witch's name is Angelique. So they get married, and it gets wrote in the history books that Josette always came to Collinsport to marry Jeremiah. Insert why. Jeremiah's first marriage is never mentioned in the history books, and why the hell would it be? Barnabas's marriage to Angelique isn't mentioned in the history books, so there's that. Also, keep in mind Nathan Forbes' marriage to Millicent is never mentioned in the history books. It's another marriage I got to get into. So it's not like there's a shortage of marriages that aren't mentioned in the Collins family history book here. Why? Why? Why are we quoting the history book like it's a Bible? Well, it technically is, but it's not accurate. So there's that. I will say this, though. I got to give credit where credit's due to the fact that the writers not only tied that in, but the fact that they gave Jeremiah a little bit more of a touch up here. It's, you might say that it's not risky, but I would disagree. This is risky because it's not like you're reintroducing the character all over again. It's not like you have Jeremiah present to confirm or deny this as a character. It's something you either have to take or leave. And me, I take it because the writers took a risk. You know, well, let's add something to the Jeremiah lore. Let's say he was married to Laura. And what I take away from that was he was married to the first ever Laura, ever. The original Laura, the human Laura, if you will. And well, there you go. There you have it. So I'm probably missing something. I'll say this too. I'll always give credit to Lewis Edmonds as an actor for playing Joshua, and the way, really what really lends its credibility to Jeremiah isn't just Anthony George. It's Lewis Edmonds and Anthony George's chemistry together. That's the one thing I'll say about 1795. There's a lot of great acting chemistry. And Jeremiah and Lewis Edmonds, their scenes together are gold. You literally have Lewis Edmonds, who's playing Joshua Collins, the brother of Jeremiah, the father of Barnabas and Sarah, pushing for another marriage, saying to Jeremiah, oh, you should marry Millicent. You should marry, he's pushing it. And Jeremiah wants nothing to goddamn do with it. So Anthony Edwards was like, nope, 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 ain't gonna happen. He's putting his foot down. And I gotta give Anthony George credit. Because even though Lewis Edmonds is huffy, and Lewis Edmonds as Joshua Collins is huffing and puffing about it, he's not too happy with his brother making a decision. In many ways, he doesn't keep pestering him with it, in a sense, to the point of annoyance. That and Joshua gets turned into a cat too. That's what helps too, because I think he would have. But I'll give credit where the writers more credit here, because they do that. Again, Joshua's missing. He's a cat. Why couldn't you turn him into a donkey like Ben wanted? Again, Anthony George and Lewis Edmonds' chemistry is great. I love the chemistry of Catherine Lee Scott, Anthony George, Barnabas. The first controversial marriage officially in Dark Shadows, is it? Not technically, because really the first real controversial marriage is the one I'm going to cover tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I should say. And that, my friends, is the marriage of Liz and Paul Stoddard. Well, of Paul Stoddard and Elizabeth Collins Stoddard. That is the first controversial marriage that really needs covered. This one's probably the most memorable because, let's face it, Jeremiah dies in a duel. I've talked about Barnabas, his ability to shoot, or his inability, and then, and then there's the second thing. It's not just Jeremiah dying; it's Josette's death. That is, look, I've talked about the widows of Widow's Hill. Though we know who the widows are, the most famous widow of all is Josette. She's the biggest name to leap from that hill, and so far she is. That hill, the hill is remembered for the widows, but the hill is remembered for Josette as well. And yes, the widows were a legend. The widows and Widows Hill were a legend before Josette jumping. That's my video for today, guys. I know I promised this for tomorrow. I'll put this up today as a tease for tomorrow because to let you know, guys know that I'm going to be doing this series. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think. Was Laura an actual human? I think they do hint in this series, if I remember correctly, her being that Barnabas suspects she was a phoenix all along. I'm not so sold on that one because remember Laura in the beginning episodes, and I know this might be an unfair comparison. In the beginning episodes, when we meet Laura, she looks like the actual Laura Collins that was married to Roger, meaning Laura Collins was once upon a time a real person until this happened. So it lets me believe that once upon a time there really was a Laura. She may not have been a phoenix. Again, that's just how I feel about it. Let me know how you guys feel about it. And what did you guys think of Josette and Jeremiah's marriage? The marriage that caused a lot of death. And then there was, I'm going to get into Barnabas and Angelique. That's a whole nother That's a whole separate video that ties in with this one. So, hope you guys have a great day. July 4th is going to be upon us. So, bye, guys.